So we're going to travel back in time. So are you ready? So please close your eyes or lower your gaze and imagine you're going back in time 2 years to late March 2020. What's happening around you? What are you doing? How are you feeling? Okay, please return to 2022. Reopen your eyes again. So I'm guessing you were briefly transported back to the start of the pandemic and remembering the disruptive impact it had on you, your family, your friends, and also your work. And if COVID-19 has taught us nothing else, it's that individuals and organizations had to rapidly shift how they communicated and worked. And lots of those shifts were digital. We learned to shift processes online and to keep in touch remotely, whether it was taking part in local COVID-19 WhatsApp groups, homeschooling kids, getting to grips with Zoom calls with colleagues, or discovering new software like Jamboard to help us collaborate remotely. And whilst acknowledging all of the pain and the suffering that the pandemic continues to cause, it's also fair to say that the last 2 years have done more for digital organisational development, or digital OD, than ever before. And one of the really positive benefits of that new digital landscape is a more fertile environment for shifting the power within international development and humanitarian response. In 1990, 0.5% of the world's population was online. Today, more than 30 years later, nearly half of the world's entire population of 7.7 billion people is online, and social media platforms are used by 1 in 3 people around the world. Now, obviously, while in some countries there's much lower levels of internet use than in others, increasingly citizens expect to be able to access services online. And this is really significant for the Shifting the Power movement, because its ultimate goal is not just to shift more decision-making, more funding, and more power to national NGOs, but to shift more decision-making and control to those communities most impacted by issues such as poverty, racial injustice, and climate change. Communities are increasingly demanding more voice, more accountability, more transparency when it comes to the services they receive, and digital organisational development is an important tool to help them get it. A good example of a new digital native organisation is called Loop. It was set up to collect digital feedback from citizens impacted by conflict or natural disasters and feed this back to the organisations which are responding to the emergency. It's already working in the Philippines and has just set up in Poland. Anyone who can access a mobile phone will be able to share their story via WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, or directly on a web platform. And aid organisations can then respond to those individual stories and improve their services in real time. Digital OD also means helping more established organisations, such as Red Cross and Red Crescent movement members, to remain relevant and responsive to communities' needs through a process of digital transformation. So this involves shifting the skills, the software, the hardware, but also the culture of an organisation. And that means shifting the power internally. So one example of this is, for example, reducing hierarchy and enabling more distributed decision-making and leadership. So digital OD opens up huge opportunities to shift power within the sector and in our own organisations. But the challenges are also very real. So the digital divide remains, and digital OD can unintentionally reinforce and amplify existing inequalities by only enabling those members of the community with access to a phone or internet and electricity to engage, for example. It may also exclude older staff or volunteers who are less confident with new technology and software. Data protection is also an issue, particularly where sensitive data is being collected and may be hacked. But despite all these challenges, opportunities for more open, accountable, and collaborative ways of working and for shifting the power through digital OD continue to grow. Stephen Bartlett, who is a famous entrepreneur and investor, said just yesterday, a lot of businesses are resistant to change. But regardless of what industry or country you work in, there is a bulldozer called innovation, and it doesn't care how much you love your job or how hard you've worked, it's going to run you over. And that bulldozer is now increasing in speed in the digital world. So creating a philosophy and a culture within your business for change, embracing it, enjoying it, and seeing it as an opportunity is a winning formula. So at INTRAC, we talk a lot about organisational readiness for change. And I'm wondering how many organisations are really ready to shift power through digital organisational development. Thank you.